All right. What's going on, people? What's going on? We got an impromptu coming this evening with the Unholy Alliance. Um, I'm your host, K Styles, aka the Sixth Man, is in the building. To my left, we got the Don. El
What's
Grande
good?
is in the building.
What's good with y'all?
We got the franchise right below us, Big Ant in the building.
What's going on?
Hey man. Also, man, we have a special guest for us this evening. Mason, man. Tell the folks where they can find you and what you about, man.
Yeah, so you can find me at West Sports PT. If you're watching live, you can see that below my floating head here. I am a physical therapist by trade. Get to work with a lot of athletes, which is pretty awesome, and I also get to talk about the Chicago Bears on my podcast, Bare Bones. So I like to blend the combination of rehab talk, knowledge of the body, along with the different sports takes. So it's a nice a fun time.
Okay. Mike, what's going on, man?
Am I in the right spot?
What you mean?
I don't know. Where all these new people coming from? What's going on? Ain't no new people here, man.
What's wrong with
Oh, oh.
Get out of the way. Go on somewhere, Mike. You already know what this is. All right, man. We've got the
You got Mason
introductions out the way.
Crosby on the screen. Mason, is that you?
Hey, what's up, man?
Man, don't you supposed to be playing football right about now?
Oh my god.
Nah.
Listen.
This fuck, man.
Don't mind him. He
Yeah.
don't know no better right now. All right, man, go
I
ahead.
had too much lemonade, y'all. Forgive me. Too much
But if lemonade does that to you, boy, I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that.
I
But
would
go
show
ahead.
you the bottle right now, but I don't think that'd be appropriate.
I don't think Mike's hard lemonade will count in this conversation right now. All right, man, we got the introductions out the way, man. So, hey, man, the floor is yours, man.
All right, so um, Thursday night, the Atlanta Falcons have agreed to sign Ian Cunningham as our next general manager for our team. Um, I know we talked briefly about general managers the past few weeks, but Ian has a great resume. He's been with Chicago the past few years. Before that, I think he worked, but 6 years in Philadelphia, and then before that, he worked in Baltimore. So he won two Super Bowl rings as a scout. One with Baltimore and one with Philadelphia. Okay, I was echoing for a second. And this is the reason why we brought Mason on, because Mason, he knows Ian Cunningham very well. Again, Mason, he covers the Chicago Bears, so we're gonna let him talk about Ian and the things he's done for Chicago to make them currently a playoff contender this year. So, what's your thoughts about Ian becoming the general manager for the Falcons?
Yeah, thanks for that. And it is fun finally getting to cover a playoff team. The Bears have been in a not great spot for a while now, so it's a nice change of pace. And Ian Cunningham is definitely a huge part of that. You already talked about where he came from. I mean, he got to see and learn from some really great minds. I mean, the Ravens are just a fantastic organization. They have been for a long time. The Eagles, obviously, Howie Roseman just knows how to scout and draft players. They consistently have one of the better teams just talent wise, but also they do a fantastic job of managing their cap and how they can keep those really good players. And when Ian got brought on, it was a tough start. The previous Bears GM Ryan Pace left the team in a hard spot, especially with the cap. So a lot of hard decisions had to be made early on. between Ryan Poles, the general manager of the Bears, and Ian Cunningham. So you had a lot of dead cap that you had to deal with. You had Khalil Mack. He was one of the first moves that was done there in terms of trading him away. Several players left or were Jakeem Hicks, James Daniels was traded away. So there was a lot really had to be done. And also there was missing draft picks because Ryan Pace again had traded away, whether they were picks from the Khalil Mack trade, whether they were picks from the Justin Fields trade. So you didn't have a first rounder in 2020. You had 2 second rounders. And so as a part of that, trying to really build that defense and offense back to its former glory, you really had to start from scratch. So, and some of those draft picks really have panned out. The early ones, talk about the first 2 picks where Kyler Gordon, the nickel, has injuries, but when he's on the field is a top 5 nickel. And then you have, Jaquan Brisker was that other pick, and he had one of his best years this year. And in that Rams game, really played himself into a nice contract. He's a free agent now. And there's been ups and downs. When you look at trying to parse out what's the GM and what's the assistant general manager can be tough, right? Like what move was what, but Ryan Poole said that, Ian was his right-hand man. Ian did a lot of the heavy lifting. He's on record of that. And you look at also some of the moves that were done with direct ties. So for example, Robert Quinn was traded to the Eagles for a 4th round pick in 2022. And the Jalen Carter trade, the Eagles moved up 1 spot from 10 to 9 in the first round to get Jalen Carter. The Bears got an extra 4th round pick out of that. So Ian does a good job of, pulling from those previous connections. And you can even go back to the Roquan Smith trade when they traded him to the Ravens. They got a 2nd round pick out of that. So, I would definitely expect Ian to continue being able to do that in Atlanta, being able to pull from probably the Bears, the Eagles, the Ravens, just those previous connections to be able to make, future deals happen. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's been some funky moves. And again, you got to look at what might've been Ryan Poles versus Ian Cunningham. One of the biggest snafus, I guess you could say, was the Chase Claypool trade, where the Bears traded away a 2nd round pick for Chase Claypool. That did not work out, but obviously he's not even in the league anymore. They only got a 6th round pick for Justin Fields. There was news that maybe they could have gotten more for him, but they wanted to do right by Justin. So, your previous franchise, quote unquote, quarterback, you only got a 6th round pick out of. You drafted guys like Valens Jones Jr., who's actually in the Super Bowl, funny enough, but, he's an afterthought on that team. But there's other guys like Zach Pickens, who's so far hasn't done much because of injury. Karan Amagaji was a reach in the 4th round. Torrey Taylor was a reach in the 4th round, a punter that he's been an average punter at this point. Ruben Hippolyte was a 4th round pick who barely could see the field. So the Nate Davis signing, there were signs that he should not have been brought on, but he was signed for $30 million and underperformed before ultimately being cut. Small trades like Dan Feeney for a 6th, Ryan Bates for a 5th. So a lot of these late picks were being sent off to try to patch holes, and some of these players just really didn't help out. But that being said, then there's awesome ones, right? Think about the trade for that they gave for the 1st round pick that Carolina did, where they got DJ Moore and a bunch of picks, and some of those picks, right, ended up being, for example, Caleb Williams. They ended up being Luther Burden, who had a fantastic year last year. So, that was a fantastic deal there. And then you can take this either way. So Ian Cunningham by trade was a center to a guard in college, and then was an undrafted free agent to the Chiefs, also as an offensive lineman, but he never made the roster. But it was weird because also Ryan Poles was a former offensive lineman, and the Bears offensive line was mediocre at best for a while. Then this year, Ben Johnson comes into town, and you sign Drew Dahlman at center. You make trades for Joe Tooney, who was a Pro Bowler again this year. You make a trade for Jonah Jackson, who was a fantastic addition and was not a problem whatsoever at right guard, and really put a lot of the naysayers, in their place with his play this year. And Darnell Wright ascended as one of the better right tackles, I think, in the league. So now you have a pretty fantastic O-line, but how much of that was Poles, how much of it was Ian, and then how much of it was the Ben Johnson effect? So you got to really parse through a lot of that. But all that being said, sorry for my rambling, but Ian Cunningham, I think, is a very smart guy. He did a lot of heavy lifting here in Chicago. He's got a lot of connections, and I think he's going to make a fantastic GM for the Falcons.
Look, you good, man. Look, that's everything we wanted to know, man. Because again, now we've done our research on our end, and we said that Ian's a guy who been in different organizations and still found ways to still seek talent for that team, understanding their identity, and then still ended up winning championships, or they continued to be consistently good during his duration with the team. If it's I know he's been with you guys for a few years in Philly and also in Baltimore. So, what's your thoughts, Mike?
Well, I want some BS on him. Does he like to go to strip clubs like our former head coach? Because our former head coach Raheem used to like to go to strip clubs with his former players and stuff. Like, does he do those types of things? Like, I want the juice. I want some. All right, did he get in fight with a reporter? Did he cuss a reporter out? Did a reporter curse him out? Like, I want some nonsense.
I will say, probably unfortunately for y'all, or not actually fortunately for y'all, but Ian's a pretty mild-mannered dude. He's not going to strip clubs and partying or anything like that. He only spoke to the media a handful of times, but the times he did, well-spoken, was able to, was really great with his time, and was able to, get his points across and everything in a way that really didn't seem like he was just trying to get you out of the room kind of a thing, right? He really wanted to have that conversation. And everything else, like, the relationships he has with other teams, with other scouts, with some of these colleges. There's actually, the Bears have this web series, 1920 Football Drive. If you go back to the ones that were around through draft time, they did like a little, thing specifically about Ian and what he does and what that looks like. So I would definitely go check that out if you have the opportunity. And again, it just shows, I mean, he's about football, right? I mean, like, he also has family first and all that jazz, but he's kind of a boring guy that he's not going to be doing anything too crazy.
That's exactly what I need to hear, because we had enough nonsense here in Atlanta. We have enough nonsense in Atlanta, so he's the perfect guy for the job, in my opinion.
And I think it was kind of a match that was destined to be, or at least it seemed that way. When you think about Matt Ryan, right, being the president out there in Atlanta, he was roommates and friends with Ryan Poles. Matt Ryan even, popped in and out of House Hall a couple times to chat with the Bears and help them out with some stuff. And so that connection of now Ian going and being underneath Matt Ryan in that building, it just seems like the mentality and what they are going to be looking for in certain players and how they're going to be operating, it should just coalesce really well.
K-Styles.
Well, my thing, I think he pretty much kind of hit it on the head. It it's just the thought of being associated with a multitude of winning cultures in the NFL. Like I said, even with the Bears not being as successful as the other two teams, it's still a rich history in the NFL as far as that. So it's kind of like understanding that mindset and having a guy that knows that type of football, knows that kind of physicality, knows that the trenches is important, knows that running the football is important, is definitely a vision that I think this Falcons team has lacked per se in the last few years. And definitely, hey, it's a good change in tone for what they want that the Falcons were. And like you said, it's just Matt Ryan just going back to what helped him in his rookie year was that physical, nasty grit. I'm down for it.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you highlight what would you highlight there. it's important to learn from your failures as much as your successes, and to see, right. I mean, the Eagles weren't always perfect. They had their ups and downs that came into play. Like Howie Roseman got sent to the corner of the building when they had the whole Chip Kelly experience, and then they realized that was a terrible decision. Brought Howie back more into the fold and saw what worked really well here. Worked really well there. And then with the Bears, yes, it's just recent success, but again, they were in a pretty bad spot. They were handed a quarterback that was, as you can see, I mean, he's had 2 other stops. Justin Fields, Pittsburgh didn't work out. The Jets definitely didn't work out, and they were trying to make it work around him. And so you're trying to lean the resources that way. And then even last year, when it came to the Caleb Williams experience, you have a rookie quarterback who has a ton of talent, but definitely had some stuff that he had to clean up. But you're trying to make it successful that year, right? You had Matt Eberflus, who was he was a coach that was going to get fired if he didn't do well. So you had to try to surround him. You traded for Keenan Allen, and there was a whole Nate Davis thing. And so you can tell the organization tried to plug holes to make it work. And for better or worse, both Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham are GMs that are going to work collaboratively with the coaches that are there, right? Like when Matt Eberflus says, "I need a 3 technique," the Bears tried to go get a Larry Ogunjobi, who ended up failing a physical, so he never actually was a Bear. But I can't blame Ryan Poles or Ian Cunningham for signing a guy that A, the coach wanted to have, and B, just ended up failing a physical, right? So that was where the collaboration didn't necessarily work. Now, if you flip it to this year and Ben Johnson pounds the table and says, "Hey, I need my guards to be right, and I need a tight end that's going to be a modifier for me, that can be a mismatch issue," and then Ryan Poles / Ian Cunningham go and get, like I said, Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson at guard, and they go get Colson Loveland, who in the last couple of weeks of the season and in the playoffs was a crazy mismatch and just was racking up the yards. And they were smart enough to go get Loveland instead of, no offense to him, but Tyler Warren. I think Loveland's going to be the better pro long term.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's a feather in their cap.
For sure, Colson Loveland, man. Yeah, Colson Loveland. I think he's the best tight end in last year's draft, man. And I really think he. We talk about generational talent. He's one of those guys.
But look, let's just be honest. This is not gonna be the flashy fall on your face Falcons. We about to be boring. We about to be gritty, and we about to win games. We got to pull a Band-Aid off of these fans that got no spines at all. Period. Like, we're finally doing stuff we should have done 20 years ago. Put the front office together enough to say, you know what, you'll be all right. You'll like us again when we're winning games. Plain and simple. And for all you out here, all you know-it-alls out here trying to trump us, no one person responds the same way in every organization. Not Ian Cunningham, not Kevin Stefanski, not none of these guys we got hired. So y'all can quit hanging their past on their back as to how they're going to do out here. We don't know. We don't know. You've heard it from Bears fans. You've heard it from Cleveland fans of what they used to do and what they may do. We don't know how they're going to do out here. Period.
All right. My next question is, so our organization, since we hired Matt Ryan a few weeks ago, this word vision kept being thrown around. And last week when we introduced Kevin Stefanski in the press conference, Matt Ryan clearly said that we want to be a physical team that can run the ball on the ground and play tough defense and pretty much just winning in the trenches, winning in the line of scrimmage. I know you mentioned a little bit, Mason, about Ian, his background being an offensive lineman. What do you think? Do you think his vision will fit here in Atlanta?
I mean, I think so. That was what the Bears tried to do early on in the Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham tenure, was to build through the trenches and build outward. It just didn't necessarily work at times, right? Like I mentioned, they couldn't get the center position right for years, and now if they finally have Drew Dalman, and it seemed, and I'm very happy with how Drew Dalman played this year, and I'm sure y'all know him very well with his time with Atlanta. And same thing on the defensive line. You trade away a Khalil Mack, which you had to do because just the finances didn't make sense in the rebuild. But they really haven't been able to fill the defensive end position with at least a blue chip guy. Montez Sweat is probably a 1B, really solid 2 for a team on the edge. And then they've tried. They threw in multiple draft picks in the interior. Gervon Dexter is a pretty solid player, not an all pro or anything like that, and he might be someone that gets an extension here, but a solid player. But there's a lot of trying to patch holes with veterans, not necessarily as much development of draft picks on the line as you would like. Darnell Wright is the one guy at right tackle that you could say the Bears drafted and developed, and he is a bona fide starter, could be an all pro kind of thing. So that's something that I would kind of just keep my eye on as an Atlanta fan, is what's happening with the drafted talent on the offensive and defensive lines, because that was probably one of the bigger asterisks I would say so far when it came to the Bears front office.
Mike, what's your thoughts on that?
On what exactly?
Just pretty much he was mentioning the defensive line, the edges.
Wait.
No, he was just saying the DNs, like it's just guys that they scouted and drafted, they just haven't worked out. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, you're talking about just the Falcons and the DNs, or just talking about the DNs that he scouted?
Yeah, Ian Cunningham.
Well, that I don't think that matters. That doesn't matter. I could care less about our edges, or especially when you got Jalen Walker and James Pierce, and then you got a guy like Braylon Trice. It's still up in the air on whether or not Honor Ebiketie will be back. Caden Ellis. The Falcons have options, so like Ian, in my opinion, I think it'd be fine as far as the edge is concerned. I'm not too concerned about it. I think I trust Ulbrich enough to be able to find the right people or person. Being that he worked with Robert Salah, he knows what talent looks like in regards to not only edge, but just the front end itself, what it takes, the linebackers thing. So, like, I'm not worried about that aspect right now with Ian Cunningham. But listening to Mason, and what is encouraging to me personally is the fact that he has connections and he can get our picks back. That's what I want. I want my picks back. Okay. Ian Cunningham, if you listening to Mad Mike right now, I need my freaking picks back. Okay. I need my pick back from the New England Patriots for giving us Mr. Strip Club. Y'all know him. Ant know him pretty well. But yeah, I need my picks back. So that's what I'm focused on. If he can kind of
wow, how you just go throw that in there?
Wow.
Throw that shot in there. I know you ain't talking about Matthew Judon.
Oh man, he threw him under the bus.
I mean, whatever his name is, I don't recall him doing much with Atlanta anyway. So I'm just saying that's all.
So one thing on that note that I'll say that the Bears have been very good about recently is they're pretty good at the trade back. So they have the players that they want. So they're sitting there, and the player they want is not there. They don't force the pick. They've done a good job of trading back and acquiring future assets, whether it's a pick in that draft or in future drafts. So the Bears did that multiple times, even this last year. Some Bears fans were frustrated actually about it because they wanted the Bears to take a running back earlier than they did, but instead they said, you know what, no, there's not someone that we want here. We'd rather get, again, the future assets. The other thing that Ian brings is I always call him as the get back guy, because if you look at it back at a couple of the Bears drafts and some of the videos that they show within the draft room, they showed Ryan Poles bitten at the chomps trying to trade up for certain players. So he actually wanted to trade up for the punter Torrey Taylor. And you literally see Ian Cunningham being like, no, we don't need to be trading up right now. He'll follow us. Don't worry. He did the same thing for Roma Dunze. The Bears were sitting there at pick right after the Falcons ended up taking Penix. And the Bears were considering trying to trade up to go get Roma Dunze. They wanted him that badly. And Ian Cunningham reeled Poles back in and said, no, let the process play out. Like, he's very analytical. They talk all the time about how they use all these different, machines and analytics and all this to generate how they think the draft will play out. And lo and behold, the draft played out how they thought it would. And Roma Dunze ends up falling to them at that pick right after, again, the Falcons go. So, I would think Ian would continue that thought process where if there is a player that they are truly worried is going to go, they'll go get him. But for the most part, I think Ian's probably going to be willing to sit back, let the draft fall to him, not mortgaging future draft capital just to go chase someone that maybe they shouldn't chase. Now, I don't know how y'all's view of the Pierce trade was, but I don't know that Ian Cunningham would make that trade to go get him as a pass rusher.
Well, it worked out because Pierce is just 10.5 sacks for the season. Hey, I think it was good because if we didn't pick him up, then we're really just giving Philadelphia another opportunity at getting a great pass rusher. And we already know Philadelphia, when they get any trench guy, they always succeed. They always do well up there. So, but we do have a history of jumping the gun and trading draft capital away to get our guy, and that kind of hurt us, as far as depth wise go.
Yeah,
because we do have an issue with depth on our team right now.
Yeah, you see that a lot of not good organizations, and I think the Bears would fall into this previously. That there's two, as a fan, it's fun. It's draft night. You say you want this player, you're pounding the table, and you see the draft, the trade come across the screen. You move up 10 picks to go get someone, and it's a future first that's going out the door, a second this year, whatever the case might be, and you're like, who cares? That's a future me problem. And then it's 3 years later, and you realize you don't have a good backup guard. You don't have a solid linebacker, and all these little things, and you realize, man, I really wish we hadn't made those trades. But it's hard. It's easy in the moment to get lost in the sauce.
And speaking of that, what you just brought up, I got just a question. I just want to know your opinion. The trade the trading deal that the Browns made for Deshaun Watson a few years ago. Do you think that was good for the Browns or bad for the Browns?
I mean, I think I even said this on our first podcast after that went live. I thought it was a terrible deal. I would not have done that. Not for that amount. Because you had to pay the guy and you had to give up that much capital. That's a lot of equity you got to give up in that situation. And, obviously, and then the history proved it to be true or correct that was a bad deal. It's hard. And that's why I don't like even the idea of trading for someone that you have to pay, because you're now double dipping. The Bears are coming up with that kind of a thought process because they want an edge, and maybe Max Crosby could be available, or you could potentially sign a guy like Trey Hendrickson. I'd rather pay Trey Hendrickson than trade for Max Crosby and then probably still have to give him an extension. So, yeah, I didn't like that deal for the Cleveland Browns when it happened, and I think history has shown that it was a pretty terrible deal. His money is still on their books, and that's one of the reasons why they struggled to put together a actual team.
I got a question, follow up on that. So everybody know how I feel about Raheem Morris. So the Atlanta Falcons did something, and I've asked. Well, people have asked me this question loads of time, but I want to have an outside opinion on this. So the Atlanta Falcons, when they hired Raheem Morris, when they hired him, they brought in Kirk Cousins, the quarterback that obviously, his career he had, I don't say a Hall of Fame, but a lower tier Hall of Fame career, putting up a ton of numbers, made a ton of numbers. So he's done his thing, but he came in, obviously torn Achilles. The Atlanta Falcons gave him $100 million, and they drafted a quarterback in Michael Penix in the same year. What are your thoughts on that personally in regards to the Atlanta Falcons? I see the look on your face already, but what are your thoughts on that? And if that's something that you would have done, you want your team to do, and in that regard, as far as just a guy, Kirk Cousins, the amount of money that they paid, and then they turn around and get a young quarterback, and how would you would respond to that?
It's funny because, again, as a Bears fan, we did this. The Bears signed Mike Glennon to a good chunk of change, and they drafted Mitch Trubisky in the same year. And the idea was twofold. One, that they were trying to throw people off. Like Ryan Pace was doing this weird, like behind the scenes cloak and dagger thing of like, I'm not interested in Mitch Trubisky. Like there's a story that they did a dinner and he's told Mitch to make a reservation somewhere down at UNC where he played his college ball, and Mitch ended up putting the name under Jim McMahon, and Ryan Pace loved that, and it was so fun. And Mitch drove a Toyota Camry from 1996, and that it was a whole stupid thing. But anyway, the double dipping of I'm going to pay Mike Glennon, and it wasn't like record setting, but it was a lot for Mike Glennon, who at that point had never really started, with the idea of one, throwing people off the trail, and also two, to be able to let Mitch sit and not have to play initially. But that doesn't work out, right? And what happened was Mike was terrible, and 5 games in, they ended up having to throw Mitch Trubisky in anyway. So you're paying a guy to be a super expensive backup on your bench now, essentially, and your rookie who you didn't want to start right away is starting and taking all those bullets flying at him. It's just a poor allocation of resources. You have a finite amount of resources, both with the cap as well as with your draft picks. And yes, I know the draft is fake or the cap is fake, and you can do all this stuff, but you need to have a very creative front office to be able to pull that off, and Boyd Ears and all these things. If your idea is to let a rookie sit, go get a middle of the road guy, get your Marcus Mariota that you don't have to pay a lot to, or whatever the case might be. And in that situation, I mean, especially when paying Kirk, that was a lot of money. I mean, that was like starter money. You drafted Penix, who was an older rookie as well. So it's not like you're really that excited about him sitting for a whole year, or if not more. Again, I didn't love it. It didn't really make sense to me. I was blown away when Penix was. I mean, I was excited because that meant the Bears were getting Rome. But I was blown away when I saw Michael Penix's name come across the screen. I just did not think that that's where they would have gone. And then if you want to make the situation worse, it seemed like the Falcons were playing chicken with the other teams in the league who might have traded for Kirk Cousins, saying, no, we're not going to trade the dude and eat any of the salary or whatever the situation might have been in order to make that happen. And it was all weird. It was oddly handled. I didn't get it. Arthur Blank seemed like he played a big role in that in terms of what he did and didn't want. It was odd.
It wasn't Arthur. It was Rich McKay.
Arthur kind of allows those guys to kind of do their job. But when they start getting out of hand, that's when he kind of steps in, and that's pretty much why Raheem, Rich McKay, so many of the guys in the front office, because a lot of those guys kind of talked them into doing as such. I mean, the Falcons front office, Kyle Smith is gone. Quite a few other guys are gone.
Everybody gone.
Everybody pretty much gone. We got a few guys that are scouts that are still there, but a lot of those guys kind of talked him into it, and that's why Matt Ryan is coming in, and he just brought a whole nother team, including Ian, man.
Yeah, it was funny because we all complained about Rich McKay, and what happened was when Belichick was on the boat with him, we was like, all right, this pretty much going to be a done deal, and we found out he was outvoted at the last minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the hiring Raheem was a Rich McKay idea because Blank wanted Belichick or Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
I was upset about. I had $100 on it that Belichick would end up being the Falcons head coach that year. So I didn't win that bet, and I'm still upset.
Oh my gosh!
You were upset I mean, we was like,
I
like,
lost my
lit,
mind.
Bro, we
like,
was
literally,
look,
like,
we was
we
upset.
look. I'm gonna tell you, we had a whole 5-hour conversation about what they were talking about on that yacht, and
That part.
Sam said he on that yacht. He's as good as a Falcon. Next
Yep.
thing you know, Raheem Moore is a head coach. What?
I
And we find
lost
out,
it.
Let me
I
tell you.
lost it,
Let me.
yo.
bruh.
We
Yeah, we
lost it.
was
Let me
hot. We
tell
was hot.
you. We had not only was Belichick. We interviewed Jim Harbaugh, Mike McDonald, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
Those are the guys we interviewed, and
Yes.
we chose Raheem Morris.
And I was trying to figure out how, and then we found out. Yeah, Rich McKay came in at the last minute, like, oh, we're gonna go with Raheem. Click. What? Y'all good with this?
Man.
So, go ahead, Sam. What's your take on all this
You
so far,
lucky
man?
down there, Sam.
Yeah, Sam still got a headache from this.
Man, look, right now, uh, there's a purposeful PSTD rash going around after these last 2 years, deservedly so. With the clean sweep, everything as written that was involved in the debacle is gone. Matt Ryan has come in here with a purpose and a plan, vision, if you will, to serve a particular mission. That's to protect the quarterback. And you can see that. Callahan being hired screams that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I myself are expecting, everything this offseason to be centered around the trenches. As far as trading back up, I mean, we kind of sort of talked about that yesterday on the watch stream on the Senior Bowl, and looking at some of the stuff I was looking at this morning, and when I got up, I think there may be 4 players defensively, and one of them being offensive lineman that if we feel strong enough about, we may trade back up. But other than that, I don't really see us reaching back in the first to get anything. I think whatever we may really need, will fall to us at 15 or 16 in the second round. Stefanski, like I said, if Nick Chubb can run for 1,400 yards under his system, what do you think Bijan gonna do?
2,000.
And hiring Cunningham, extremely excited. I kind of had the feeling we was gonna get him. And the Van Pelt hiring again screams protect the quarterback at all costs. There's a plan. One of the first things Matt Ryan, and I've spoken to him, mentioned this before. One of the first things that a lot of people looked over that Matt did when he first walked in to this situation is he cleaned house with the medical staff, training staff, brand new, and stuck a rehab team around Penix.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike.
I want to ask Mason political question, but it involves football. Don't get too alarmed. All right? I wouldn't do that to you.
Right.
So there's a guy that plays for Cleveland that
Oh boy.
a lot of people seem to think just like he's how can I say this? He's Jesus Christ reincarnated. All right. So
Oh boy.
and his name is Shadua Sanders. So do you feel as though that Shadua Sanders there's this lure around him, and I don't know exactly what it is per se. How would you categorize the Shadua Sanders? Because on one hand you have the NFL, and it seems like they did what they did, and then you have the fans believe that the NFL did this and they did that. How would you categorize? Because like I love Shador. Don't get me wrong, but there's like I said, it's a cloud, whether it's a light cloud or a dark cloud, but it's clouds around him. So how would you categorize that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, I would say so. When I always say that there's two different drafts. There's the regular draft, and then there's the quarterback draft. And quarterbacks always get bumped up, right? You know, there's a guy that's a second round value that you take in the first because it's a quarterback. You got to get him in the first, or else you may not get him. And for a while there, it did seem like Shador would be the second quarterback taken on the board. He'd get taken higher than he should have been. That's how most draft pundits were putting it. And then he started to fall, right? And the thing is, if you weren't gonna start him, if he wasn't going to be your QB1 for right away in training camp and then going into week 1, a lot of teams said this isn't worth it for us because we can't have him be our backup quarterback, and even initially, because of the fanfare behind it, right? Whether it's his fault or not, but everything that goes along with being Shador Sanders, being Deion Sanders' son, and the TV shows and all these other things that are involved in that, it brings a sense of circus to your building that you may not want to deal with. So then these other teams who may have drafted him earlier were like, we're not going to do this. And then we got to the point where it got ridiculous. Like, he should not have been drafted as late as he was. He is not a, day 3 talent. He wasn't our first round talent, but he definitely was not a day 3 talent. And then you had this flip that happened and almost lore that was built because he was the third quarterback, which he shouldn't have even been that, right? He's buried behind Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel. And Dylan Gabriel is never going to be a guy that starts any really meaningful games for a team that's really trying to win anything. And most people knew that. But so then this lore gets built because, Shador is being done wrong, which to an extent he was. And it's all this stuff is happening. And then so by the time he finally plays and looked a little lost initially, but then found his footing and actually looks decent at the end of the year, you just get to this point where this swell has been built about how it was a racial thing or how, he was just done dirty and all this stuff. You have some, individuals in the media like Josina Anderson who went heavily to bat for him. And then you add in the last part where this year there's a lot of guys that were injured and a lot of guys that turned down the Pro Bowl. Like, they went to Trevor Lawrence before they went to Shador Sanders. Trevor said no. The same thing happened with Caleb. Caleb was actually offered the Pro Bowl, but he declined it. And so they go to the next person. So now when you knock off all of the people that were hurt, like, the Patrick Mahomes of the world and Lamar Jacksons, and you just go down the list and then Trevor Lawrence says no, yeah, you're going to end up with Shador Sanders being in a Pro Bowl as an alternate. And that's going to be on his football page forever. That in 2025-26 season, Shador Sanders was a Pro Bowler. Was it earned? No. He didn't play enough games for it to earn it. He didn't get enough wins, and honestly, he didn't play well enough. Did he play better than I think a lot of people expected? Yes. Multiple things can be true at once. So that whole thing with Shador is going to be crazy. There's really not any quarterbacks this year outside of Mendoza that people are very excited about. So Cleveland, I don't think they'll try to replace him this year, but they have 2 firsts this year because of that Travis Hunter trade. I'm not Travis Hunter, in terms of the trade that they did. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they trade down and try to recoup future picks so that next year they can try to draft Shador's replacement, because from what I've seen so far, he's good, not great.
Well, we got a saying here, and it is no rookie escapes the rookie process. None. There hasn't been one quarterback in NFL history that just let past it, even the greats. And this is something we've been trying to tell our fans for a long time is, number one, a coach does not have to like a quarterback. Doesn't matter where they come in. Second of all, you're a rookie. You still need to go through the process of learning the NFL, learning the game, learning about yourself. And it seems like on one hand, everybody tried to say, because he's Deion Sanders' son, he's just going to come in here, lighten it up. That wasn't the case. And then they said, how you guys are treating him, you shouldn't do that to a great. He hasn't proven anything. He's living off his dad's name. And 3, a lot of people didn't understand that situation in Cleveland had nothing to do with Stefanski because he didn't have control over it. That was the front office. But because it's Shador, they overlooked that. Now, were there certain aspects, like you said, that we felt he was done wrong? Yeah. But people forget that he was a rookie. Like you said, how are you a rookie unproven and you're in the Pro Bowl? Who does that? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Can I just say a little something about this quarterback thing? I mean, and the mindset that generally the fan populace has when it comes to quarterbacks, which generally most of them are fans of players. This expectation of extravagance, fantasy, or favorite player otherwise, belief of I'm saying, a guy that no matter where they're drafted, quarterback in particular, to be all pro to Hall of Fame ready out the gate, that shit does not exist. It don't. Hall of Fame coaches.
We live in
and
instant gratification
Hall of
society
Fame.
now. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Hall of Fame coaches and Hall of Fame quarterbacks themselves have said, and unless you're just like us, actual football fans, seem to understand this particular saying that it's long. I remember hearing this way back in late 70s, early 80s. It takes a quarterback 3 to 5 years to get it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way in my Harley Race voice on God's green earth that after 8 games, 10 games, and one season, you're going to know if a quarterback is it or not.
I mean, it's never happened.
It hasn't.
It's never happened where you saw a quarterback in year one lead a guy to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl in the same year, and for whatever reason, like I said, this is just I don't know where this fantasy idea of quarterbacks just being there. It's like you saw Dan Marino play well in his rookie year.
Ben Roethlisberger had a good rookie season, but still, it wasn't like he was up for MVP that year.
I mean, Matt Ryan had a good rookie season, you know what I'm saying? But he didn't jump right to the Super Bowl in his first year.
And hell, well, from my standpoint, it was after Matt's third year, and I was like, okay, we got something here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, the perfect example was going to be in the Super Bowl next week in Sam Darnold.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
But like I said, man, as far as that situation comes in and out, like I said, fans are going to fanboys are going to fanboys about the situation. Like you said, man, the NFL teams are going to be making their decisions whether people like it or not. Like I said, the thing about it is, Shador Sanders may be good, he may not be good, but just be honest with you, being a fan of him. It got to a point I just got tired of talking about it because it just became a useless conversation at this point to some people.
Yeah, they got their minds made up. They got their minds made up about who they like, and they figure their feelings and wants and needs is strong enough to get this person to be the player that nobody's seen before. Yeah, it's crazy.
I got a petty question. Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
how you guys like Grady Jarrett up there?
Grady's, it's been interesting because he came in and was an immediate leader in the locker room and on the field. I got to go to a couple training camps and you heard him talking to the guys, and it was fantastic from that perspective. And then he got a little banged up early in the year, and he just really couldn't contribute on the field. So he was trying to stay on the field as long as he could, but he wasn't very effective. They finally sat him. He got for a couple weeks, got healthier again, came back, and he played better in the latter part of the season. So he's not from on the field production standpoint, he's not necessarily playing up to his contract, but in terms of what he's providing from a leadership perspective, there's a lot to be gained there. So we're hoping that next year, a little healthier, he can give you a bit more. But so far, you give it like a C plus, B minus kind of a signing.
Yeah, it sounds like pretty much exactly what we got here in Atlanta. That's why I want to ask you a question because, like I said, he's a great guy, but I think the thing is when you look at not only what his talent has been throughout his career, you expect certain numbers, but like when you see when he actually gets on the field, he's not exactly giving you those numbers, but he kind of makes up with that with his veteran leadership. So obviously you love Drew Dahlman. I kind of thought that he would pan out exactly with, but how kind of reiterate how you feel about Drew Dahlman.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I mean, I think part of it for me could also be the fact that the Bears literally haven't had a center in like a decade. So at this point, anything that can block is a positive. But I mean, Drew's great. I mean, he's a super smart guy, just very cerebral when he talks, especially with this Ben Johnson offense. It's a hard offense, and they ask a lot from their center in terms of protection alignment and mic recognition and all that jazz. And then even some of the blocks they have him do, like I can't tell you the number of times on tape they had him do, snap the ball and then do like a 180 spin to block the back, the end on the left as Caleb is rolling to the right kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so just, his smarts and then his speed, obviously he's a very fast guy. They use him on pulling a lot. It's been great. I think he got the nod this year, right? He was a Pro Bowl center. Pro Bowl center. He's right now chilling in San Francisco with a couple of the other Bears Pro Bowlers. So fantastic signing. I mean, I would do that one 100 out of 100 times. And he's been a godsend when, again, the Bears center position has just been horrendous.
Yeah, I had to get that question in. They would have never forgave me if I didn't ask about Grady and Drew, specifically Grady. I think I'm good. I'm satisfied, man.
Yeah. See, and speaking of former players, like I said, I want to do a throwback on this one. As the Falcons fans know, this year we've had a lot of special team blunders, as I would say. Mason, for the Falcon fans that are kind of complaining about special team blunder, do you want to relive the Cody Parkey days?
Oh God! Why do you got to bring that up?
Wow.
So that entire season, 2018, right, is the year that we're referring to here, and it was it was a fake year the entire time. You kept getting these wins that you felt, yeah, we got a win, but like when you really looked at it, it wasn't great. Leading up to that Eagles game that you're talking about, I mean, there was a couple of doinks and misses and weird things, and then you get that drive from Mitch Trubisky, hits Allen Robinson down the side. You're saying, all right, we're going to take on the Rams in the next round, and we already beat them earlier this year. They got to come to Chicago. We got this, and then you get the double doink, which that's going to play on pretty much every YouTube video compilation, right, of can't believe this moments and I can't, the worst moments in NFL history kind of stuff or till the end of time. And then it was just downward from there, right? The Bears lose that game. They have Cody Parkey goes on a talk show then literally 2 days later and starts talking about how he's, how terrible his life is and how Bears fans are mean to him. And so then the Bears cut him. And then the Bears do a kicking competition that summer where they bring in like 10 kickers and end up having them all kick, ultimately to trade for a different kicker and Eddie Pinheiro because none of them are that good. And Eddie wins the job and he only was with the Bears for – it just was a bad sequence of special teams for the next like 3 years.
Hey,
That sounds
wow,
familiar.
is that?
That sounds familiar. It sound like the Falcons was on the next page of that crap.
2025 Falcons right there.
Yeah, that sounds like
Yeah.
when you was explaining that, boy, it sounds exactly how you.
You don't think about special teams until they're screwing you over.
Yeah.
Oh,
What?
man. Oh, that's
Lord, that is hilarious, man. I ain't got nothing else, man.
I'm gonna need
What?
some off the top. I'm gonna need some off the top shelf to talk about special team.
You know.
Shit, I'm about to go pull up right now because of that.
Right.
All right. What else you got for us, Don?
All right, one more question. I know a lot of Bears fans and a lot of people in the media in Chicago are upset over Ian leaving and the Bears not getting any comp picks over that. What's your thoughts about that? I'm not trying to poke the bear.
Yeah.
I just want
Well,
to know
I
how.
am. I'm glad you said it. I love
Okay, so I'll give you two answers. I'm going to give you the superficial answer and the real answer. The superficial answer is the Falcons screwed us by the hierarchy that was created by Matt Ryan being the primary football decision maker. And technically, even though it's a promotion for Ian Cunningham, it's not a promotion. So the Bears don't get the 2 comp picks. Now, people are trying to explain it away as, oh, it's just 3rd round picks. Who cares? 3rd round picks are important, right? Like 3rd round picks are where you can, especially 2 free 3rd round picks. That's where you can use those in trades. You can use those, right, to build a lot of depth. You can take some chances with those picks. More bites at the apple is never a bad thing. And the way that the rule is written is not written well. Now it's probably going to be adjusted this upcoming year. I'm sure at the owners' meetings it'll get brought up, and the Bears are just going to be the team that got screwed over by it, and it'll be better in the future because it is a promote. The whole point of the rule is to take a minority and help them reach a place where they are making big impact on a football team. And that's what Ian Cunningham is going to do, even though technically by the way that the rule is written, right, it wasn't a promotion to the primary football decision maker. Now, the real answer to that is the Rooney Rule sucks. The Rooney Rule is put in place as a checkbox to hit so that you get these minority coaches who are coaches or front office members or whoever who are getting interviews, but they're not getting jobs. There were 10 openings this year, and I'm pretty sure a single minority head coach was not hired out of those 10.
Robert Salah was hired.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So we got 1 out of the 10. Thank you. Robert Saleh was hired. That was 1 out of 10, which is still not all that much. And that there's a pipeline issue, right? Right now, there's a big call for offense. You want offensive minds. There's not enough minority individuals in offensive coordinator positions, which is a problem. Some of the defensive coordinators who are like Robert Orr and some of these other guys, they're not really getting they're getting interviews, but they're not getting the looks. So you give guys like Minter who get hired by the Ravens, which I think Minter is going to be a fantastic coach. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he is.
But that happens. Then you have the retreads like Mike McCarthy. Like, do I really need to see another year more Mike McCarthy? I don't. Like, we know what that story is going to be. It's insane.
Wow.
And then you could extend that to front office positions, right? Because in these front office positions, you still are not getting enough individuals really who are filling those seats, also because of the pipeline. So if the point of the rule is to put minority individuals in positions of power that can affect the league in meaningful ways, that's great, but the rule is not really creating that necessarily, and it's a bit of a sham of a rule, especially when you look at what happened right here with the Bears and Falcons, where it wasn't anything like the Falcons were doing it like to be mean. It's not like they were like, it's our picks we're losing. They don't care. It's just if the Bears get 2 extra picks. It's just that the way that the hierarchy, and that's the thing too, if you look across front offices, they're all structured differently. The Patriots don't even technically have a GM. Their de facto GM is Elliot Wolf, even though technically he doesn't have that title. You have other teams who have like 4 assistant GMs. So how are you supposed to know who does what job? Like it's all just poorly constructed more than anything. And so again, the superficial answer is I'm salty about it, but I'll get over it. The real answer is the Rooney Rule needs to be adjusted to make actual impactful change.
I call it a warning poster. I want to say a poster, but I find it. You know, you have those family pictures and you say, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
That's how I look at the Rooney Rule. It's just you just have a whole bunch of guys on standing next to Matt Ryan, standing next to the GM. It's like, all right, so where did this guy come from? It makes no sense, the Rooney Rule. You hiring guys, you bringing in for an interview, and nobody knows who they are. They're not going to get a job. You're just there. So like I don't know what to do about it. If you can kind of give me your thoughts on maybe where they should go, or
It's just a political facade. That's all it is. It's just to say, oh, we satisfied the Rooney Rule because we brought in these people. We're not saying they're gonna get hired, but we did it just so y'all can see we follow the rule.
yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it really starts in the early parts, like the interviews for the head coach, the interviews for GM. It's all well and good, but until we have more minority individuals coming up through that pipeline again, like there needs to be more. For like, let's say, you need to be more in the front office in general, right? We need more scouts. We need more assistant to the insert title here. There needs to be more offensive coordinators, like all these positions that are ultimately the ones that are going to get moved forward. So, I mean, I don't have an exact answer, but trying to have more opportunities, more, I would have more conferences, things of this nature, basically all these more things further down the line that would help ultimately give a lot of these individuals the skill set that they might need to be able to take these roles. Like, for example, I don't think anyone would necessarily. We tend to float towards people that we are similar to, right? We tend to surround ourselves with individuals that we connect with. And it could be just as simple as this person doesn't talk the same way that I talk. So if you're sitting there in the coach's office and, this 4 individuals who happen to be white talk one way, and this one individual who is used to play quarterback and, now is a assistant to the quarterback coach is speaking, slightly differently, that's going to fall in the ears in a certain way. Right. So there's those are certain gaps that need to be closed in order to make this a more efficient pathway.
yeah, I like it.
Speaking of salty, can you speak on your Justin Fields experience?
No.
No.
I knew that was coming.
Oh man.
I'll give you the clip note of it. I mean,
don't do that, man, like that.
Here's the thing. Justin was my second quarterback ranked in that quarterback class. It was Trevor Lawrence, then him, and then a bunch of, and then everyone else. And when he got drafted, I was insanely excited, and the early returns were fun. But after watching him for a year, you realize that he just wasn't a very good thrower of the football. And there's different ways you can look at that. It wasn't that he couldn't throw the football. It was just that his release time was too long, and the processing he did, and he wasn't like dumb guy. Like, I got to talk to Justin a bunch of times. He's a very intellectual individual. He understands the game of football. It's just that there are different types of cognition. So like I always describe them when I talk to my patients, for example, I treat a lot of concussion people, is static versus fluid cognition. Static cognition is what's on the whiteboard, right? You can see exactly where it's lined up. The fluid cognition, which actually the S2 test measures, which is the one that CJ Stroud did quote unquote terrible on, but turned out it was a bad score. That's a whole other conversation. That fluid cognition is when the ball is snapped, right? And that safety that was up top rolls down. So now you're in cover 1 instead of cover 2. Like that kind of cognition is what Justin struggled with, where the picture that was in front of him changed. And so then he would hold the ball a half second longer than he should have, which led to sacks or which led to interceptions or incomplete passes or whatever the case might be. And so, but he's always the best athlete when he walks on the field. It's crazy. I mean, like the things I saw him do are wild with his legs. It just didn't translate into the arm. And so, and then there was a whole civil war on Bears Twitter of the pro Justin Fields and then the pro more like the Caleb Williams people. And that was a whole thing for that entire spring, I should say. And that's still people holding on. I mean, there are people who literally left the Bears fandom because they were pro Justin Fields and they said that they did him dirty.
You wait. That sounds so familiar because we got people still mad about Michael Vick, and it's been years.
I'm telling you.
It's the post. That's why I've always, because like anybody know that I'm a quarterbacks guy, and I've said a lot of things that he struggled with. It's not necessarily his arm. He's a talented guy. He's one of the most talented guys that I've seen that come through to the University of Georgia. But the things that he struggled with is adjusting. It's just like I said, those post snaps adjustments. He just doesn't respond well to them, and I think it's like I thought that him going to Pittsburgh would do him well, but it just hasn't. I don't know what to do at this point with him, to be honest. Outside of just dumbing your offense, he needs to be on a team where I think just
y'all being too polite. He sucked.
No.
Especially
I'm
today's
talking
day
about
and age.
quarterback, man. I'm saying, how can you fix? See, I'm always into fixing the quarterback. What can you do to help him? Shine. I don't
problem is the
know.
Well, he has to. He has to.
NFL.
He's gonna have to want to fix that himself first, because
Hold on. Mason was trying to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What I was saying was that the kind of offense you'd have to run with him is an offense that, unfortunately, today just cannot work in today's NFL. As you keep having this back and forth between offensive and defensive minds, like the defense is now winning in this year, the offense takes a step this year. The defense, we have this ping ponging that's happening, year after year in the NFL, and in order to keep up with the crazy disguised defenses, I mean, take Brian Flores. His defense is starting to spread across the NFL right now, whether it's because people are copying what he's doing, or you're seeing some of his individuals, like I believe the passing game coordinator for the Vikings just got hired by the Commanders. So in theory, you should see more Brian Flores stuff out of Washington. It's the whole point. You have to be able to be a fast processor, and you have to. And then there's the pure progression kind of offenses, or there's also the coverage-based progression, right? You're going to have an offense where I have zone routes over here, and I have man routes over on the other side. That works for some guys, but honestly, that's not going to work all the time. That's why then you have the pure progression guys, where it's 1, 2 to 3, and unfortunately, Justin just can't really live in either of those worlds right now, at least not consistently. And the way that you're going to make him the best quarterback he can be is by, again, probably having the match one, where you're going to have zone to one side, man to the other side in terms of the route combinations that you have, but matching that with his legs, and his body cannot keep up with that physically. Yes. That was one of the issues in Chicago, was that when he did rely on his legs as much as he did, he got hurt, and he didn't miss really any games, but you could see that affect him game after game with that kind of physicality. And then you go with the Jets, where you thought you would see one. I also thought he would go to the school of Mike Tomlin, and all of a sudden he would be awesome, but that wasn't the case. And then he goes to the Jets, and I mean, they have some of the best combos of running back and quarterback that you could really have there. You have Garrett Wilson there, all that, and it's like, and that didn't work. So, I mean, I think they have to use him to an extent this year. The question is how much. It would be crazy funny if they brought Greg Roman in to be their OC, just because, I mean, that's peak run game. That might be the only one that you can maybe see successfully. Though another example I'd highlight with that is what the Patriots did with Cam Newton for that year, where it worked for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden the rest of the league caught up and realized, and then it stopped working because the league said, "Oh, we can stop this."
So let me ask the question. Let me ask the question on that, though. I'm gonna ask the question on that one.
Hey,
so
kind of wind it down there.
Yeah. So as we talk about, like I said, these type of quarterbacks, like the Justin Fields with the athletic quarterbacks and stuff, do you have this feeling that maybe because of the fanfare of the athleticism, that sometimes the quarterback tends to be more reliant on that, more so than worried about the progression of his quarterback skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's human nature sometimes, right? To default to what you're good at. We as humans try to find the easiest path, not necessarily the right path. I think that's true with, things we do at school, at work, workouts. I mean, in football. So if you're standing back there in the pocket and you're not as confident in your reads, and you say, "Well, I'm pretty sure that I can just scramble and get the yardage myself," again, that's kind of human nature, just to default to what we feel is easy.
So he's up.
There you go.
I'm curious to see if he ends up finally accepting kind of more like the Taysom Hill role with the team, where he puts on some weight so that his frame can hold up, and he, like I said, is the occasional thrower of the football, because he's a better thrower of the football than Taysom Hill is. Yeah. I think ultimately that's going to be his role, because teams too, the backup quarterback is so important. I mean, take the Falcons. It was a perfect example. They had Penix. He got hurt. Kirk Cousins had to step in, and he won some games for them. Now, you don't want to be paying your backup that much, but that's a whole other side conversation. You can't trust. If you gave Justin, hey, can you win us 2 out of 4 games? I don't know that you can trust him to do that right now, because the offense you have to run with him is so different than the offense you have to run with your starter.
I got a question. I got another question. Because a lot of people said that Justin Fields just had the wrong coach. Some people said that Justin Fields will be better with Eric Bieniemy. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I think better, yeah. I think he could be better with an Eric Bieniemy. I think he'd be better with a Cliff Kingsbury, because Cliff uses that air raid system, college-esque in running and all that. I think he'd be better with the Greg Roman. I already mentioned his name. But
do you think he'd be like an all-pro quarterback?
No. I think you would have probably like a half to 3/4 at most of the year where like that's working for you, and then teams will get the film and adjust. That's again, Cliff Kingsbury. There's a reason why his offense always works the first half of the season and then doesn't work the second half of the season. Like every year, he has a great record to start, a bad record to end, because teams catch up and they adjust. It's crazy. If you actually go and look back year to year with his time with the Cardinals and all that, and even with Texas Tech, it's all very similar. So I think that's what would happen. You'd have probably this really crazy, fun, run-based, air-raidy offense for Justin, and then the second half of the year, it would just be not very fun, and it would just be, teams would figure it out.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else y'all want to bring up?
Oh no, man, I'm good, man. Like I said, I love this conversation, man. I'm good.
All right. I know Sam happy right now about that information.
Boy, he is that just got put in his memory bank like, oh yeah, I got something for y'all. I know you're gonna use that.
Yeah.
Very diabolical.
I mean, what are we looking at? He's what, year 5, 6?
It's over, Sam. You got it. He's dead, Sam. He's still trying to add on.
I'm just,
You're trying to add more on. It's like
scout team, practice squad.
Listen, I already put him down.
Hey, remember that scene from Starship Trooper where he shot the bug dead and then he kept shooting? He kept shooting.
That's what Sam doing. He's dead, Sam.
Oh, man. All right, man. I ain't got nothing else, man. We can go ahead and close it out, man.
All right, man. Yeah, I appreciate y'all for having me on.
Hey, man.
All right, man. One more time before you leave, man. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah. So at West Sports PT, like I said, I do the physical therapy rehab talk, as well as the Chicago Bears talk. So if you ever have any questions on injuries regarding someone on the Falcons, feel free to shoot me a question on Twitter. I'll always answer the best I can. I try to, explain the physiology and all that, and why someone's ankle sprain is going to take 4 weeks, but someone else is going to take 6 weeks. Yes. And then you get the show Bare Bones. You can find that on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, all that jazz. And I'll post my channel. I'll tweet out my channel again. So hit me up.
It sounds like you and Juan need to be doing the show.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, one just a physical therapist, but of on the rubber booty side of the thing. So, like I said,
He's a massage therapist.
therapist, yeah. So, hey man, ain't got nothing else to say, man. Like I said, we appreciate Mason for coming on in here. We will be linking the channel. Like I said, the people that watch our show will be following you. Like I said, yeah, make sure y'all show Mason some love. Um, till next time, people, we here to play.
Oh no.
We here to stay.
Oh yeah, nigga.
You ain't got to go home.
But you got to get the hell up out of here.
Sam,
Hey.
he's dead, Sam. He's dead, okay? He's dead, Sam. Jesus.
Let the man rest in peace. That man just pissing on the grave right now. Like I said, man, that's the YouTube channel right there, Chicago Bare Bones. Like I said, we will put it in the community tabs as well too. So, hey, we out. Deuces.